This is the PPPSA meeting on February 25th of 2021. And I'll call the meeting to order as interim chair or vice chair because Alexandra can't get on right now. And we can start with the roll call. And would you like to just do a roll call really quickly?
Yes. Daria.
Present.
Veronica.
Present.
Patrice.
Aye.
Alexandra. There, I see her, but I don't hear her. And Bruce.
Yes, I'm here.
So
Okay.
since this is a subcommittee, can you just verify, Veronica, that she's here, and you can make a note of that, Anne? Just that it was verified by text. That way we have a record that she attended this meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Verified. She's texting and trying to figure it out, and she's here.
Perfect.
Okay. Does someone have the land acknowledgement
I do.
really handy to read it? You do?
I
Okay.
do.
Would you read that, please?
Yeah, so what I'd like to do before that, though, is approval of our agenda.
Okay. Yeah, that was second on the agenda, but that's fine.
Make a
What?
motion to approve the agenda.
I second.
All right. A quick
Yeah.
vote.
Oh.
Veronica?
Aye.
Yes. Daria?
Aye.
Patrice?
Aye.
Okay. And I'm not seeing Alexandra at this moment, but I vote aye as well. So the agenda is approved. Lisa, you want to read the land acknowledgement?
Absolutely. This was created with Fairfax Town Council and Coast Miwok people. Fairfax Town Council acknowledges that we are located on the unceded ancestral lands of the Coast Miwok people of present-day Marin County. We honor with gratitude the land itself and all of its ancestors, past, present, and emerging.
Thank you. And then we wanted to read the purpose of the PPPSA of this subcommittee as laid out by the town council when the resolution was made to form it. And Veronica, I believe you have that ready to go.
I do. The purpose of the Police Practices and Public Safety Alternative Subcommittee of the RESJ Committee is to explore police practices, public safety alternatives, and funding, and other related issues.
All right. I'm going by the agenda that you guys came up with. So Lisa, meeting rules?
Yep, I will take it from here. So can I have a timekeeper, please? Veronica, thank you, and a process observer.
I'll do that if you'd like.
Okay, thank you. And Anne, can you share our norms, please?
The norms.
They're in the process observation sheet.
Right. Yeah. Sorry. There you go. You see?
Scroll up. Yep. Up, one more down. Perfect. All right. So I think that it's always important to hold our norms, and it is easy when emotions and feelings are not heightened and we're just cruising along. They become very easy to hold. They are much harder to hold when we're in our feelings. And I want to recognize that the topic and the content tonight can really have people in their feelings. We have a very wide variety of experiences, both in the town of Fairfax, on our policing subcommittee, and certainly at the community, in the community at large. And I really want to recognize the importance of holding our norms so that we can have a safe and supportive environment, and so we can engage in the most productive dialogue possible so that we can really deeply understand the current state of policing in Fairfax. So I ask all of us on the PPPSA subcommittee to really dig into the norms tonight and hold the norms. And I also ask our community to recognize our norms as a team here and to also hold those norms in their hearts as we move through this evening. So I'll ask us all, these are norms from our RESJ, to remember to engage in bravery and risk-taking, to be open, to honor personal accounts, respect, active listening, ask questions and don't assume. Each person has the opportunity to speak, share airtime, and is heard. That this was in reference to people's personal experiences, is not up for debate. That there's a respectful response to triggers. It's okay to make mistakes. Values aren't selective. Don't yuck my yum. Be reflective and check in on yourself. Welcome somatic reflection. Own your privilege. Bring community along and foster inclusion. Remember why we are here, and we are the RESJ, in this case, the PPPSA, and to remember the privilege of leisurely activism. And I'm going to ask us to do something tonight. If we could stay on those norms for a minute, Anne. Thank you. I'm going to ask you all to choose a challenge norm. So choose a norm that might be challenging for you to hold tonight, and just make a note of it. Just a personal note, we won't share that. And I'll encourage you to really embrace the challenge of that norm tonight and do your best to hold it with integrity. And when you have it, just give me a thumbs up and I'll move on. Great. Okay, thank you. And Anne, if you could just scroll down, please. And these are in reference to how we're going to operate together. Short breaks, take them on your own. Avoid extended breaks if possible. If you can't make the meeting, notice ahead of time. Just do the pre-work before the meeting. We'll do our best to start and end on time. Keep your video on, please. And we'll assign homework and moderation, and a reminder to the facilitator to silence your cell phone for our meeting tonight. So thank you so much, Anne. You can take that off. All right, so I would like to welcome Interim Chief Tabaranza to be a panelist. We're going to give Anne just a minute to cue him up here.
Okay, hello, he is promoted.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome,
Glory.
thank you. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight.
Hey, thank you all for inviting me tonight and having me join this meeting. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. So right now, we're going to just do simple introductions, get to know each other a little better. And I'm going to ask our PPPSA members to go first. You're going to share your name, how long you've lived in Fairfax, and then share just your vision. What is your vision for the community of Fairfax? And we'll do just a really quick whip around. You'll have 2 minutes each. I'm going to ask Anne to time us. And in the interest of ending on time, we will cut you off. So I say that with love always. But when your 2 minutes is up and you might be in the middle of your fabulous vision for Fairfax, I am so sorry, I will have to end it. So just letting you know that in advance, as we tend to get very passionate about our visions. So who would like to go first? Your name, how long you've lived in Fairfax, and your vision for Fairfax. Veronica.
Hi, Interim Chief Tabaranza. Thanks for joining us. It feels really wonderful to begin this with you present, to begin this relationship. we've gotten to meet before, but my name is Veronica Garretts, and I've lived in Fairfax for 8 years. And my vision for Fairfax right now is a town that really leads the way in this county as we address systemic racism, recognizing the reality of what Marin holds that I know you are aware of the racial disparity, and recognizing the courage that lives within Fairfax and the opportunity with the diversity that's present in the police force itself here, that there is a really rich opportunity to be a model of a town that explores alternatives to public safety and models the way that community members and the police are able to be engaging with each other in a really productive, visionary way that then the rest of the counties or the rest of the towns and cities within Marin can really turn to. And I know it's already happening. I know San Anselmo is creating a similar committee in terms of the RESJ, and they're really modeling a lot of what they're doing after what we've done with the larger RESJ. So last thing I'll say is my best vision for Fairfax as it relates to this work is a community that I never have to wonder, should I be introducing my son to all of the police to make sure that when he gets older as a teenager, as a biracial boy, that he won't be treated with disrespect, but instead will be treated as somebody who deserves a lot of care, even in his misbehavior. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much for that. Who'd like to go next? No.
I'll go next.
Thank you, Daria. 2 minutes.
Sure. Hi, Rico. Nice to see you. Last time I saw Rico on the streets, I was the hysterical woman screaming and crying because her dog had been hit by a car. And Rico was very, very even and calm and took us both to the vet, and I'm so grateful. So Daria Sievers is my name, and I think I've lived here since about 2003 or 4. I really can't remember. The memory is the first thing to go, I think. And my vision for Fairfax is really evolving. As I think when I applied to be on the RESJ, I said something about Fairfax being a model for this sort of this major undertaking of sorting out systemic inequalities and fixing them. And that's in general what I still feel. But as I participate on the committee and the policing subcommittee, the nuance and the complexity emerges. And I think that my vision is going to have to develop and evolve along with our interactions, and what we decide together are the priorities and the methods to go about that. But mostly I'd like to see it to be living in a welcoming, warm community that respects everyone in it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daria. Okay, who's next? All right, Patrice, 2 minutes. You're muted. So can you make sure start her time now?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna restart.
Done? Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you.
I understand the global objective of RESJ to be that we'll create an anti-racist Fairfax. In my heart of hearts, I don't think that's possible. I think that we're starting at ground zero in a town where people understand racism so little that they don't even understand when they're doing it. And I have to say that I've only lived here for 2.5 years, but I moved here from San Francisco and my father was a military officer. So I've lived in different places every 3 years and I've literally never seen a town this racist. So I think we need to follow the mantra that Rome wasn't built in a day. We've got to start slowly and we've got to work together.
Well, thank you. So
Thank you.
welcome, Rico. I'm really glad you're here. I'm Bruce Ackerman. I'm currently against all odds on the town council, and this is my year to be mayor. I've lived in the town for 29 years, and this is by far the longest I've ever lived in one place. Before that, the longest I'd ever lived in one place was 4 years in my entire life. So I've lived a lot of different places and some internationally as well.
I think he has frozen. I thought he was pausing to think, but I think he is now frozen. So what I'd like to do, while we try to get Bruce back, if you can hear me, Bruce, we will, Anne, where did he stop his time? Roughly?
Like 20 seconds was
In?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you can just remember that, if we get him back, we'll give him the rest of his time. And then, oh, wonderful. I'm so happy to see Alexandra. I've been brainstorming how we're going to get your voice on here. Can you, do you have audio?
I think so. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Awesome.
please. So if you can
Cool.
share your name, how long you've lived in Fairfax, and your vision for the community, and Anne, she'll get 2 minutes.
Yep.
Okay, so hi, my name is Alexandra Rosen. I apologize for being late. Comcast chose just the right moment to go out. I've lived here for 8 years, but 4 of those I went away to college. So I was only here in the summer. But I did go to high school here. I think I share a similar vision to other RESJ committee members, which is working towards an anti-racist Fairfax in a place that feels welcoming and safe to all. I do hope that there will be change in the coming years and I'll be able to stay or feel welcome to stay here and raise my family. I love Fairfax, so that's why I'm hoping to put in the work and work towards an anti-racist Fairfax. So yeah.
Thank you. Do we have Bruce back? Great. Bruce, can you unmute yourself? And Bruce, you're muted. If you could unmute yourself, we're gonna go ahead and give you the rest of your time.
I hope you weren't waiting for me. Well, I'll just say that as far as a vision for Fairfax, Fairfax has been a leader in so many things, and I hope we can be a leader in 2 particularly intersectional issues, which, as I see it, one is the end of exploitation of people, and the other is the end of exploitation of nature, the extractive economy of nature. It's no coincidence that we're at this place in both of those.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stop us. Bruce is frozen again. And I'm gonna go ahead and we'll see what happens with Bruce. We might be in the next agenda section, but we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna hand it over to Interim Chief. And if you could share your name, how long you have lived or worked in Fairfax, and your vision for the community of Fairfax.
Hello, everyone. How's it going? I'm Rico Tabaranza, the interim chief here at the Fairfax Police Department. I've been working here for 11 years. I started here as a rookie police officer, and my vision and goal for the police and us is to work together and understand each other. That's the main thing. What I mean by understanding each other is that you get to know us and we get to know you. And with that, we build trust and we understand each other fully, without doubt, without fear, and without reservation. And so that's my goal for our participation with this meeting today. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Want me just to start?
I'm going to go ahead and just give a little bit of information about how we're going to handle the next section, just so that our committee members have their memories refreshed since it's been 2 weeks since the last meeting. And so the public knows how we're going to move into this next section. The process part of this, we had a meeting 2 weeks ago, and the subcommittee decided how we were going to move through the questions for the chief. We had a bit of a debate back and forth, and where everybody landed is that this is really essentially going to be a listening session. And both for our PPPSA members and then public will have a chance to offer public comment after the interim chief has answered all of the questions. The PPPSA, make sure I get my P's right, decided on the questions, and they were given in advance to our interim chief. And he was able to just look at them, and he's answering them freely. So he was able to decide kind of the form and the fashion and the order that he would answer questions. We won't be asking question by question. We have given him roughly 40 minutes to answer all the questions. We'll be listening as a subcommittee. We won't be interjecting or commenting or interrupting, really even to clarify. There's not an equitable way to really be able to clarify. So for our committee members, I'd really like to encourage you to take notes. I think that, as I mentioned, this really can be an emotional topic. And I really want to do two things right now. I want to honor the hard work of our police. And I also want to honor the experience of our community and the community at large who's have had challenges with the police, whether that's been here or that's within your family and community in a local, state, or national level. We don't live in isolation, and so the national context is certainly impacting all of us in different ways. As we listen to his answers, I also really want to encourage us to kind of have the self-awareness to really acknowledge how we're feeling about all of the topics that will be discussed, and also have a moment to show up in true, authentic listening. We're really thinking about his answers while we are in a national context. We're really thinking about his answers specifically for the community of Fairfax. And as we all know, Fairfax's profile, both with police activity and racially, is incredibly different than the rest of our nation. And so I want to encourage all of you to really make sure you have all the information when you're listening to his questions, and make sure to be thinking about your own community in Fairfax and how we might be understanding the information that's going to be shared with us tonight. And so if you find it helpful, sometimes I find a note taker is helpful, especially when they're questions that you care so much about. I know if I was you, I would have a very hard time staying quiet and not wanting to interject and clarify and have a dialogue. So I encourage you to take some notes. I encourage you to write down questions for next time for the public to know, and as a reminder for PPPSA, at the next PPPSA meeting, which will be in 2 weeks, they will discuss this meeting and the questions and the answers and decide next steps. So in terms of process, we will meet again and have an opportunity to have clarifying questions and do some follow-up. So any questions from our PPPSA members about that process? No changes, just a friendly reminder. Okay, so we have Alex here. I'm not sure if we have Bruce. And Alex and Bruce, do you have sound? Can you hear us okay? Just a thumbs up.
Yeah, I can hear you. I just might be turning off my camera so that I can still hear you.
Perfect. No problem. No problem. All right. So if I could have our timekeeper start us off at 40 minutes, and I will hand it over to Interim Chief. Thank you so much for joining us today.
All right. Again, thank you so much for inviting me tonight. I'd like to thank every single one of you here today because of your service to the community. You're doing the hard work, and now you're doing it with two committees, the RESJ and the PPPSA. So thank you for taking the time. Thank you for caring and being part of this community. So I know I did a little intro earlier, but I'll go ahead and start with another introduction if that's okay. And I'll keep it at 40 because I understand we have bedtimes, we have other commitments. So, okay, I'll keep it under 40. Okay, my name is Rico Tabaranza, Interim Police Chief, Fairfax Police Department. I've been here for a little bit over 11 years and counting. I started here as a rookie officer at the age of 25 years old. And for the last 11 years, I commuted from Fairfax to Solano County and Solano County and back. That's because that's where I grew up and I continue to live there today. I'm a first generation Filipino American. I'm also a naturalized American citizen. Prior to immigrating to the United States, my family and I spent 6 years in the Middle East as my father was a contract engineer tasked to assist in the mission to clean up the Gulf War during the oil spill in the 90s. Upon immigrating to the United States, I grew up in very humble beginnings. My family of 6 joined together with 2 additional relative families, joined together to afford a rental property in order for us to live in a house and was walking distance from the Vallejo public school system. I was also in the ESL program in elementary. And for those who don't know what that is, it stands for English as a Second Language. After graduating from high school, I earned an associate's degree in liberal arts from Solano County Community College. I continued on and earned a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Sacramento State University. And while working here at Fairfax PD, I earned a master's degree in public administration from the University of San Francisco. Today, I'm married with 4 kids. Like Patrice said, I have a 6-week-old baby girl at home. I have a 13-year-old son. He's my oldest, and I have an 8-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old daughter. So it's a busy household at home, and it's a busy household in the police department. So transitioning, Fairfax Police Department, let's talk about the Fairfax Police. Fairfax PD is a full functioning 24/7 police department. We're a 911 dispatch center, a 24/7 police lobby, meaning that at any time, day or night, you can walk right in the front door and you'll see a person. Person will be there to greet you at the lobby, and that person is also serving as our dispatcher. Currently, we have 10 full-time sworn officers, although we are budgeted for 11, in addition to 1 frozen officer position that was unfilled since 2005. We have 5 full-time non-sworn personnel that's made up of our dispatchers, public service technicians, and we have 4 part-time reserve employees. That's the combination of a reserve officer, a reserve dispatcher, and cadets. So here in Fairfax, we are very lean. We are tasked with many assignments. This means officers are cross-trained to deal with dispatching duties, miscellaneous duties on top of their patrol duties, parking duties, and dispatchers are also dispatching, taking phone calls, radio calls, not just for Fairfax, but they do it for the town of Ross, and the College of Marin for both campuses. They also serve as record management, and they attend to the front lobby 24/7. Our supervisors and administration here at the Fairfax Police Department serve as secondary patrol officers, like what Daria said. Sometimes I'm in this office, sometimes I'm taking her to the vet. And they also serve as investigators, HR, personnel services, payroll management, in-house IT. We run everything that makes this place a 21st century police department, and we do it with little people. We run really lean. Again, very efficient, and we're well involved in our community. So I'll transition into the questions. And did you want to share that, Lisa, or should I just read it out loud?
Yes, if I could share that. Anne, you have the list of questions. And what I'm going to do, just in the interest of ensuring that there's good visuals, I'm gonna show the questions, and if you just scroll up to the top, thank you. I'm gonna show the questions for just a minute for the benefit of the community. And then I will bring us back to a full screen. So Anne, I'm gonna have us do the two things at the same time. I'm gonna have Rico continue to answer questions, and if you could keep those up for 3 minutes, and then in 3 minutes, take them down so I don't have to interrupt him. So the community can see the questions that he was asked. But the visuals will be difficult for the whole 40 minutes if we leave them up.
Sure.
All right, take it away.
Okay, so number one, how would you describe the department's reaction to the formation of this committee, and what are some of your hopes I might have? So first, I'd like to remind everyone, the community and everyone here, that under these uniforms, we're just humans. So as humans, we have emotions, right? Like every single one of us. So to come from a place where for decades and decades before my time, we were welcomed and we were well supported by our community, to all of a sudden being outcasted and treated unfairly out there, many of our members, including me, were hurt. Just hurt by the sudden shift in our community's perspective of what we do for the community. And that's just us being human. But unfortunately with this, we lost many great employees last year. They chose to leave for another department closer to their homes, and some for more pay, because for them, staying in Fairfax was only for the love of working here. And due to that great community support going away, and us being targeted from day to day with not nice things, they chose to leave. So it was that Fairfax community support and involvement that made it worth a sacrifice for some of our people who left to commute from outside counties and take less pay to work here. So to go back to the question, how would you describe, well, the hopes we might have? Our department is hopeful. We're hopeful that this committee can help bridge that gap for those that have been spreading false narratives about the Fairfax Police Department. It is our hope that the RESJ committee and this PPPSA subcommittee, with your public and digital platform now, can make it a true goal to work with the police and to truly understand who we are and what we do without outside influences, because it's not fair. So I'll go to the next question. How do you feel working with us, and what roles do you feel you can play? Well, I'm excited at the opportunity to work with this subcommittee to help foster a better relationship. Building this relationship will help everyone understand what we do and why we do things a certain way. As law enforcement, we will continue to do what we do within the confines of the law and our department policy to serve this community. I feel I can clarify misinformation and provide answers to questions to this group. I would hope this group will take this accurate information and share them to other interest groups who may be misinformed. On the other side, another role I can play is to provide clarity to the members of the Fairfax Police Department about the purpose of this group, this subcommittee, and to really understand what your purpose is with us and what our purpose is with you. So that's our roles that I feel I can play being part of this and being invited to your forum. Number 3, what is your own experience of racism? So to be honest with you, I struggled considering and answering this question. I apologize ahead of time for being direct, but I think it's important for members of this committee to understand my perspective and why I struggled with this question. A question like this can be perceived insensitive and could potentially offend us who face racism based on the color of our skin, our cultural backgrounds, our religious beliefs, immigration status, and maybe because we spoke a native language other than English before we had to learn English. So when forming questions like this, you have to consider that it could be offensive and to one you're asking, not just a uniform you're asking, but the person you're asking. Because it's hard to assume what a person's been through as the next question poses trauma, right, Daria? Me and Daria face trauma together. So there's things that only certain people know about you. So be careful with these questions sometimes. But because I want to be vulnerable to this committee, I'll address that question. We all experience a form of racism no matter what race or color you are. Some unfortunately experience more than others, including me. As a person of color and as an immigrant, I've experienced racism in my youth, in my personal life, and even as a police officer here in Fairfax, wearing this very uniform in this community that I serve. Early on in my years here, I was doing traffic control and doing radar enforcement on 4th of July. I got called in by my sergeant at the time to share a voicemail left by a caring citizen. And that citizen said, what is this person of color doing in our community, doing traffic enforcement during our Independence Day? And that's it, that's all I'll say. But I've experienced racism all my life, and as many of you in this community probably have. So in this forum, I don't feel it's productive to give more personal examples, but if you care to really get to know me, then I'm willing to be your friend. So I invite any of you to come see me in person and let's get to know each other. And maybe we can pick up on this conversation and dig deeper. So next question. Why did you choose to work in Fairfax? Well, I was referred to Fairfax PD by an Academy classmate in 2008, 2009. I was aware that back then, this department was already a diverse police department. And although there were several hiring freezes all over that area during that time, a sudden vacancy here during the economic crash allowed me an opportunity to apply. So I did. And since then, I've been commuting, like I said earlier, 1 to 2 hours back and forth to Fairfax from Solano County. Although there are opportunities for me to work at other departments closer to home, I'm loyal to this agency because I believe in the mission of the police department, which is to build lasting relationships within the community we serve. That is why the people here in Fairfax are not just a number you call, right? The Fairfax PD is not just a number you call. Instead, we are known by our first names downtown, in the businesses. Many people we see, we're a common face, we're a familiar face, and you know us. And that's what matters to us. And that's why we're loyal and we love Fairfax, because here in this community, we feel like we belong. So that's why I chose to work here and I chose to stay here. Internally, our department, it operates like a blended family. We're like many brothers and sisters. So that it's not always kumbaya, we fight, but still we're brothers and sisters, right? We care for each other no matter what the rank. I have an open door policy here. The cadet can come in here and throw a water balloon at me and we'll laugh. It's just how it rolls around here. We have fun. And we all believe in the same mission and this community policing model. When we work as a family, you feel like there's a sense of purpose and a belonging. And that's why we continue to work here and we love this place. Often people that leave the Fairfax Police and go somewhere else, they join us on our parties or when we get together because there's a sense of family and belonging here. And that starts not just within this department, but overall with the community and the department together. So with that, I'll move to the next question. What is the most difficult part of your job as a peace officer in Fairfax? Maintaining trust in our community is number one. Police everywhere, police officers everywhere, all over the world are human and sometimes make mistakes. We understand that. When you have situations like the George Floyd incident or the Breonna Taylor incident, which are clearly wrong, it's difficult for us as the police to escape that negative light because we wear the same uniform. It doesn't matter what color, you have something that looks similar. So we get painted with that same brush, and it's difficult to overcome that loss in trust from the community you work so hard to develop a partnership with. So maintaining trust is a key issue here. And I think that's the biggest, most difficult part of being a peace officer here is maintaining trust. It's difficult to gain trust when some groups within a segment of the community that sometimes already have a preconceived notion misinterpret facts, statistics, and create a false narrative about us and plaster it all over the place, social media, call it in, whatever you want to do with it. It doesn't help. And inaccurate information does not help us work together. It doesn't help the RESJ work with us. What it's doing, it's dividing. And I'm glad to be here today and that we get to talk because now I can tell you, from me to you, the actual facts without the side noise. So let's move into the next question. What do you perceive as particular strengths and weaknesses of our community in regards to public safety? Well, again, there is overwhelming strength in this community because of the overwhelming support of public safety in our community, period. The weakness, in my opinion, comes from those who are not properly informed of the truth when misinformation is put out there. That's the weakness, because oftentimes that's a result of people not understanding what we do, how we are supposed to do it within the confines of the law, and why sometimes we have to do things a certain way. So as you know, we police this town way different than most towns. We do things the Fairfax way. You probably heard that many times. We do things right. We do things fair. We operate under the spirit of the law most of the time, and we strive to understand and feel for all sides of the party before a decision is made. Overall, we do our best to treat everyone with respect, no matter what the interaction. It's often, we call it a goal, or we call it a success when someone that you arrest actually thank you after you arrest them. And I think that attributes to the respect and the dignity you show a person, no matter if they're a victim, a suspect, a witness, or just someone you met outside. It's our goal to treat everyone with dignity and respect in every interaction, and that's what we pride ourselves on. Number 7, what are the obstacles and barriers of law enforcement effectiveness in Fairfax? You know, again, Fairfax attributes our success to the relationship we have with this community. That trust has been established in the community for decades. I mean, decades. Before my time, there's been a lot of trust in this community. And I don't think there have been many obstacles and barriers, but again, this has been evident by that support that we have already. However, as I mentioned earlier, navigating misinformation about what we do and why we have to do it becomes a huge obstacle and barrier to what we do, because we are an agency that responds to all situations, including negative interactions. We're the department that deal with having to arrest somebody. We're that department that has to deal with that person that's violent. We're that department that has to deal with that person with mental illness. When the mental illness, people aren't available or can't respond or closed. And so we have to deal with the negative. And oftentimes with that, there's a lot of misunderstanding and people don't understand why we do things a certain way. Number 8, could you let us know what the diversity within the Fairfax PD looks like? Okay, so currently 70% of Fairfax police sworn staff are people of color. That's sworn, those are the officers. 75% of non-sworn, 75% of non-sworn are people of color. Those are dispatchers, cadets, your PSTs, and combined we're 72.22% people of color combined in the department. 60% of the Fairfax Police Department commute from 6 outside counties daily. So you're talking about racial equity is right here. We have self-represented LGBTQ members in the Fairfax Police Department workforce. 28% of our Fairfax police staff were born outside of the United States and are now naturalized citizens, DACA recipients, or permanent residents. That includes me. Collectively, there are 7 different languages fluently spoken by members of the Fairfax Police Department. We are fluent in English, Spanish, Hindu, Urdu, Punjabi, German, and Tagalog. Religiously, Fairfax Police Department represents atheists, agnostics, Christians, Jews, Roman Catholics, Muslims, and Buddhists. Next question. Does Fairfax PD currently have implicit bias training required, and or if not, are there plans currently in place to implement implicit bias training? Yes, implicit bias training is required, and yes, we train on it. We have a lengthy policy on it, which I'm sure you all know. It's on our website. It's available. We have one-on-one scenario training with staff and supervisors. We conduct training during daily briefings. So we have shifts work, right? So we have day shift, we have swing shift, and we have graveyard. There's briefings every time there's a shift change. So we have daily training during these briefings. We release internal training bulletins for new or updated procedures based on new laws. And we subscribe to Lexipol and issue daily knowledge management systems, DTBs. These are KMS daily training bulletins regarding our policies daily. Most recently, we completed a formal post-certified training on bias and racial profiling. POST is a police officer standards and training. So yes, implicit bias training is required, and yes, we train on it. Number 10, what does community policing mean to Fairfax Police, and how is it put into action? So community policing simply means the police in the community working together to resolve and address community issues. Working together to resolve and address community issues. Again, this is something for decades that have been in place here in Fairfax, even before the community policing term was invented. So with that, I'm going to read our mission statement. The Fairfax Police Department's mission is to build a stronger, better relationship with the community we serve and to create a safer community by enforcement of state and local statutes fairly, impartially, and consistently, tempered with friendliness, courtesy, and understanding. It's our goal to fulfill that day in, day out, every minute while we work here. It's put into action by how our officers interact with the public every day. Some agencies, although they do a great and fine job, they don't interact with the public like we do. I require officers to get out of their cars and do foot beats in the downtown areas, the parks, and different areas in town daily. And oftentimes, unbeknownst to the general public, we increase presence either by foot, driving around, or just being around in problem areas reported to us by the community. And that right there is community policing in action. We get to know where certain things need to be addressed. And sometimes you go, why are these guys all here? And we're just talking to people. It's just us being there means we're deterring things from happening because we're visible, we're present. We're not cut off from the midsection down because we don't hang out in our cars all day. We get out and walk and we come see you. So that's community policing. When you call our dispatch center, you have a live person answering the phone call instead of the automatic answering service. You know, you don't have to press 1 or 2 or repeat what you have to say. It's somebody saying, hello, Fairfax Police, how can I help you? You know, when the public wants a simple police report, we have an officer come to you. We can call you if you prefer that. We can meet with you face-to-face to take the report. We don't make people go online to file their own police report on an online platform. We engage with the public. We want to do the work with you face-to-face so you can get to know us. So community policing was our practice before COVID, during COVID, and is still our practice today. Number 11, and this ties into number 12, by the way. How can we help police officers be more a part of Fairfax? Residents, and especially the RESJ, can help police officers be a part of Fairfax by getting to know us. That's it. When you see an officer, wave hi, strike up a conversation, get to know the officer's name, how they're doing. Don't judge us by what is often inaccurate information that's out there. Get to know us, figure out what we do and why. And we're open to that. When you approach us and it's not in a threatening manner, we strike up conversation. It's that right now and recently, officers have been a little off edge because of what we've experienced lately, but we're still open to having relationships with the public and the community. So please strike up a conversation. Remember that officers and those out there that you see on the streets, they're humans too. And under this uniform, we're fathers, mothers, sisters, brothers, sons, daughters, and friends. And the only way to get to know us is to understand who we are, to figure out who we are, and to share something in common with us. And that's humanity. We need to know each other. And with that, you get to know us, and we develop that trust automatically when you get to know us. So we'll try to get to know you if you're open to it, but hey, come see us. If you see us out there, say hi, you know? And that ties in with 12, which is how can citizens and government care for law enforcement personnel, understanding that it is difficult and sometimes a traumatizing job. Well, just community support, like Daria said earlier, create a supportive environment. You know, I understand when I'm out there and I know people, it's a different interaction. You know, when you get to see somebody out there and they're asking for help and they know you by name, you treat them like a family member. So we need the same thing. You know, if we know who you are and you're a friendly face and you're a friend, then you've supported us. And if you just jump to conclusions and call us names and already have a preconceived notion about us, then it doesn't help anyone, because off the bat, we're defensive, and off the bat, you're defensive. But if you want to get to know an officer and you have to interact with us in some way, let's make it a friendly one. So community support and make it a supportive environment. Get to know us and get to know us by name. That's the way the community can help us. Next question. And that ties into number 14 as well. Are ride-along opportunities available to citizens, and how might an interested citizen ask to do a ride-along? So unfortunately, no. First, the town of Fairfax will accept the liability associated with a citizen if anything were to happen to that person. Right now, we operate under minimal staffing, and ride-alongs require a soft background. So we have to make sure that citizens do not have criminal histories, pending criminal charges, or be of any officer safety concern, especially when we're operating with short staff. In addition, we are obligated to maintain classified information private. When a citizen is in the car with an officer right here next to him, we cannot allow certain tools and resources to be used, such as encrypted radio channels and the mobile console that we have in front of us, because these tools are not allowed to be used because they're governed by the DOJ, Department of Justice, based on privacy laws, as we have access to California enforcement telecommunication systems known as CLETs. And they have strict policies and practices and procedures about the availability of this information and how it's shared. So when there's someone next to us that's not backgrounded, that's not a peer, that's not a sworn officer, we can't use it. And when we're operating with already a short staff, then you're cutting a tool from us when that happens. So, and also with the pandemic recently, having anyone in the front passenger seat of the patrol car becomes a working condition issue that we have to take up with the union. A citizen would be within an officer's 6 feet range during the entire shift. So for you to relate to that, just imagine being in your office and having someone sitting next to you, just watching everything you do and during your shift, during COVID. So the union will have an issue with that. And it's different with the person in the back because we have a clear barrier that's in place. That's a separator, and there's windows that could be open. So it's different when there's a prisoner in the back than if there's a person next to us. So no, at this time, we do not allow citizen ride-alongs. And I think that's the end of it. So thank you all for being here and doing the good work and allowing me to answer these questions.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Interim Chief Tabaransa. We really appreciate you taking the time to thoughtfully answer all the questions and be here with us tonight. So thank you very much. So I'm going to actually have Anne remove you now as a panelist. So you're welcome to.
I wanted to throw out a thank you before you removed him.
Yeah, we all agreed we weren't going to comment. So if everybody'd like to say thank you, of course, I'd more than welcome thank yous. But I want to make sure the thank yous aren't attached to some longer thoughts.
No, I just wanted to thank Rico because I think that across the country right now, there are not conversations happening like this with racial equity committees and the chief of police. And so thank you for being transparent and honest and open. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrice. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. And again, thank you for having me here. Look forward to next.
So I work in very complicated situations many times. And what I have learned in this work for racial justice and social justice, and what I have learned when we work with very contentious issues, so often at the heart, people want the same thing. And I heard a lot of commonalities here tonight. That's not to underestimate the differences that we have as social justice workers and advocates with the police. But I do just want to take note of some of the things that I heard here tonight that are in common. We know that in this work, conflict is going to happen. And the question will really be, can we have productive conflict to strengthen the community of Fairfax? And we talk about trust in this work, you've heard me mention it before, as the connective tissue that holds our communities together. And so I'm not highlighting some of the commonalities to certainly dismiss the significant differences, particularly within a national context. But I think that both our PPPSA members and our interim chief spoke of quite a few commonalities, and I just want to highlight some before we move on to public comment. I really heard both community groups talking about wanting stronger and better relationships. I heard both community groups, and I've been hearing this over the course of my life here in Fairfax, and then certainly in the facilitation role I have, wanting to be heard, wanting to be understood in our authentic selves, and also to be seen as human. I heard everybody here talking about wanting an anti-racist Fairfax, wanting a Fairfax that was trusting and founded on good relationships and founded on community. And so I want to make note of those things, because as we continue to work together with the PPSA and the Fairfax Police Department, there will inevitably become those moments where we disagree. Emotions will run high. It is predictable and inevitable. We're talking about people's lives on both sides of this issue and the future of our community. But I also want to take a moment here where we're in a space of listening and learning, just to recognize the commonalities that exist and many of the common goals that you all have for the community of Fairfax. And so I hope to thoughtfully move us all through this process together so that you can realize all of those goals. So thank you very much to our interim chief. Thank you so much to our PPPSA members for putting together the questions so thoughtfully. And we will reconvene next time to hold a discussion around the questions and next steps. And we, for our audience, I'm not giving our PPSA an opportunity to speak. That was the agreement at our last meeting, that we would just hold a listening session and we'd move into public comment, just so everybody knows why. So for public comment, Anne, can you let me know how many hands we have raised so we could do a time check here? You're muted.
There's no one with their hand raised.
Okay, so I will formally open public comment. We'll hold public comment for 3 minutes each person. We will mute the mic at your, finish your last sentence, of course, but we will mute you at 3 minutes. And like always, we just ask that our public comment also hold the norms that we hold as a subcommittee and engage in thoughtful and respectful dialogue. So I look forward to hearing from the community, and I will formally open it up to public comment.
Okay, so now we have two. I have Joe and then Naomi. So Joe will go first, and is it 2 minutes, Lisa, or 3 minutes?
We're doing 3 minutes because there are only 2 speakers. And for our speakers to note, we do have cue cards. So at the 1 minute mark, we'll give you a warning and we'll give you a 30-second warning, and then we'll end your time.
Okay. Okay, Joe.
Thank you, Anne. Yeah, and thank you to all the folks on the subcommittee, and thank you to Interim Chief Tabaranza for coming and sharing tonight. Yeah, and I'm glad that it's the first piece of an ongoing dialogue, so that we can, get into some of the heavier lifting, frankly, and discussions around the institution of policing and what the uniform means to folks, and what it means to officers, and its impact in the way that they see people. And just, this isn't about like the individual members of the Fairfax Police Department. It's about this institution and this bias that can be created at times without them even knowing it. And I'll just throw, there was a reference to prisoners in the back, and there's nobody in the back of a police car who's been tried and who's a prisoner. They've been arrested. And having to deal with the negative was a phrase that was used. And when referring to mental health situations and So these are things that I don't think Interim Chief Tabaranza, intended, to say, but it just goes and speaks to that bias, that institution of policing and what it carries into the officers who wear the uniform. And that's what we're really trying to address. So thank you.
Okay, great.
So Patrice, I see your hand, but we're in public comment, so I won't address your hand. And then we also agreed that we weren't going to have participation for the PPSA. So I'm going to have to just maintain that norm we all agreed on. Anne?
Okay, so the next one with the hand raise is Naomi. Hello, and
If you could remove Joe.
I will in a second.
Hi there. Can you all hear me okay?
Yep,
Yep.
we can hear you.
Go ahead.
Thanks so much for giving your time to the community in this way, subcommittee members, and thank you also to Interim Police Chief Tabaranza for being here tonight. It's really great to hear this dialogue and to start this process of getting to know one another better. And I really appreciated hearing the Interim Police Chief's very heartfelt responses, and good to hear him speak from the perspective of being a human. I think that's really something that is important for us all to keep in mind as we have these difficult conversations. I, like Joe, am interested in hearing, some of the next conversations that might happen that delve into some other kinds of questions that are really important to ask from an institutional point of view, namely the ways that the interim police chief feels that the Fairfax police might improve in terms of, how racial disparity may or may not come into situations as an institution in Fairfax. I think and just how the police department might improve in general. I'd like to hear about how the Fairfax police, how willing the Fairfax police is to be open to different kinds of public safety models. For example, like the Cahoots model in Eugene. Are there situations that the Fairfax police feel would be better handled by mental health experts rather than by themselves, carrying a gun? So, I'm really interested in delving into, how open the Fairfax police are to de-escalation of different kinds of situations with specialists who really are wonderful at ensuring that nonviolent results come from interventions of various kinds that really do help people. And I think also another thing that's important is our Fairfax community, but I'm also really interested in understanding how the Fairfax police think about others who might come into the community who may not, own houses here or pay rent here, or maybe even look like they belong here. I'm using quotes around that, air quotes around that. I think, prioritizing our community is important, but also prioritizing the safety of everyone who might come to Fairfax is really important. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you all being there.
Thank you so much.
So Naomi, I might have to remove you. Please just hop on again. I'm not seeing how I can put you back into the attendee, and I did the same thing with Joe. So my apologies if you have to hop on again.
All right, and I believe that ends our public comment, Anne, no more? I don't see any hands raised.
No, you're good.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and formally end public comment. And we did agree not to hold discussion at this time. I'm sure you have lots of thoughts and lots of comments right now, but I am going to maintain that agreement for all of you. And that actually brings us into public comment for items not on the agenda. And so I'm going to go ahead and open up public comment for items not on the agenda.
I don't see any hands.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment for items not on the agenda and bring us, I'd like to note this probably going to be a historic moment where I'm bringing us to the closing of our meeting at 8:10. So I think this will be once in a, I don't know about lifetime, but once in a blue moon, which is something my grandma used to say, experience. So let's enjoy that. I don't believe we have any next steps that were specifically named in the meeting other than the ones that we agreed to next time. But if I missed something, please raise your hand and let me know. Veronica.
I just wanted to make sure to raise everybody's awareness to that in terms of next steps, that the town council will be discussing the interim police chief or the hiring of a permanent chief at their meeting this coming Wednesday. So to make sure to tune in, and for members of the public who weren't aware of that too, to make sure if this is something that you want to continue to be a part of and listen in on, that'll be happening next Wednesday. And would love, in terms of next steps, agenda-wise, for that to definitely be part of the next agenda. But maybe I'm jumping ahead there, so I could wait.
All right, we'll take note of that.
The council meeting will be discussing the process specifically about, so then no action will be taken, but it is the beginning of the process. And we had said a while ago that this would happen within around a 6-month time frame. So it's coming to that point. But yeah, that's good to know. Also at this agenda on the council will be a discussion, and possibly it'll be a decision that will have to be made about the whether or not to rename Sir Francis Drake Boulevard. So 2 items on the agenda. Thanks.
So we'll go ahead and move to items for the next meeting. So this is a time for our subcommittee to name the items they would like to see on the next agenda. And then I will meet with the chair to prepare that agenda for all of you. So just open comment, open dialogue, and I'll take hands. Veronica. And then Bruce.
We had set the next set of questions that we were eager to engage with interim chief, or that we were holding. I won't apply eager to engage with because I don't think that's true for everybody, but that there were other questions that we were had listed as wanting to engage with interim chief Tabranza about. And so I'd love for that to be decided, to suggest that we take action on making sure to decide when we could invite interim chief Tabranza back into the space to engage with him with those questions, and to also consider if there are any ways in which we want to build the relationship with town council, and if it's just with, you know, engaging with you, Bruce, within this subcommittee, or if there's just ways to really bridge the communication between this subcommittee and town council and utilize this group and enable us and continue to let that happen. So I would love to put that on the agenda to just brainstorm around in what ways each of us think that could happen. And lastly, to see if there's any recommendations that we might have as town council engages with the hiring of the permanent chief. Yeah, I think I'll stop there.
Thank you. Patrice, oh, sorry, I said Bruce and then Patrice.
I think I wouldn't really like, but I feel like I need to at the next meeting, maybe just at the beginning, just have 5 minutes or something for a discussion just about process, about how we bring, about stuff that happened at the last meeting in particular, about bringing someone in through an email and reading that email. And we should have some kind of a clarity about how and when we do that, because in order to be fair to all the public. So just 5 minutes maybe for that.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. Patrice.
I was just going to say that before we add additional questions, perhaps we should resolve the questions we put out there based on the information that Rico has given us, the information that we've been able to attain, and make an action plan. I mean, I'm sure that you guys are following what's happening with racial equity and justice in Marin, but Mill Valley started after us. They've already made 68 recommendations. They were all turned down and their committee was abandoned. And I'm just worried that we've actually done nothing except talk. So I think it's time for us to maybe look at what we've done thus far, create an action plan, and then start to ask more questions. But we can keep Chief Tabaranza involved in our process. We just need to do something. Because we're do-nothings right now and it's frustrating.
Okay, thank you. Any other items for the next meeting?
So I'm going to make a process call on, I don't want to be called to do nothing. Not helpful.
And what norm would you like us to recognize right now, Daria?
I'm not sure which one it is. I don't know. It feels like name calling, but it's just, I understand the passion and I'm there with you and I'm eager to take action and make plans, but I appreciate a more positive attitude.
Okay. I think one of our norms is also to be able to speak our truth. So thank you for also holding that norm. Patrice.
I guess I'd just like to say, what have we accomplished thus far? And can we set some goals and accomplish them? So I'm not trying to say that you are do nothing. I'm trying to say that this committee has done nothing, and it's frustrating.
Any other thoughts?
Well, I'd rather be here than where Mill Valley is at.
Okay. So thank you. And any other items for our next meeting? So one note I'll make before we move on to process observation. Yes, Veronica.
We will, I'm hoping that in the RESJ meeting, the discussion around the budget and what's available within the budget will be talked about. So I would love to add to the agenda for PPPSA, for PPPSA Subcommittee, to maybe consider in what ways there might be opportunities for us to, we talked about a survey, and in terms of an action plan, I think this sense of gaining factual survey data from our community to really not rely though they're so important, but it doesn't feel like some people hear them, not on qualitative anecdotes, but on really giving some like hard data from a survey. And so would love to put that in there, knowing that that might be something that would use up some funds within the larger RESJ budget.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
So, Daria?
I'm just going to say, you know, I think we need information before we take action. If we jump on action and we have no information, what's the point? We're taking action based on our opinions, not really gathering information from the community. That's the opposite of what we're here to do.
Patrice?
I'm sorry to be like the bull in the china shop here, but we always gather information. That's how you make decisions. So if we're making decisions without gathering information, then we're not a committee. We're just a people with opinions. Everyone's got an opinion. So I would recommend that we make action items to gather that information so that we can make decisions and move on. I'm just saying that it's been 6 months, guys. We have not accomplished anything. I've literally never been on a committee like this. 6 months? What please tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we've done anything.
Veronica?
We got established in December. And I think that would make 3.5 months as a subcommittee. And we didn't have our first meeting until January. So I hear I resonate with the sense of urgency. It is fully alive, I think, within all of us. And also feel like it's important to recognize how it can be productive in our conversations with each other. And be realistic that we have indeed only had 1.5 months to be meeting as a subcommittee. And look forward to ways that we're going to continue to work together and make this change.
And I'd like to offer an opportunity. Alexandra, you haven't raised your hand. Would you like an opportunity to comment?
I guess I just feel like we're doing something by being here, and we're having these conversations that we weren't having last year. We have space to say and express ourselves. So I feel like that is something. And I think that we do have a long way to go, but I don't think we're not doing anything. And I just really appreciate all of you being here.
Thank you. So from the standpoint of, we have a lot of differing opinions right now, and this is really where we get to enact our norms. We are going to disagree. And we are also going to experience disagreement very, very differently. And so I know that as a person personally, I have a very high tolerance for conflict, but I have friends who do not. And so I know that when we experience conflict, my friends and I, or colleagues and we experience conflict very, very, very differently, just because we're simply have a different orientation to it. So as we work together and we learn how to hold our norms together, part of that work is also knowing how we do have productive conflict, where we can have disagreeing opinions, but that we are communicating when they feel personal, and that it isn't a personal attack, not to imply that happened tonight. I'm speaking generally here, of course, but I do want to highlight, we're about to move into the process observation, which is why I'm highlighting this, is that as they say, the honeymoon has ended. I'm gonna say that perhaps maybe too early for some of you, maybe I'm too late for others. It's all relative, isn't it? But I want to make a quick note that when teams are working together, there's a very normal and natural process that teams go through. And in the beginning, our forming stages are often, not to use a heteronormative marital example, but it is a societal cliche. It tends to be a exciting, joyous time with little conflict. And as we move through team development, this is a proven, very well-known process. We start to storm and we really start to figure out, who are we? So I know we're coming to the end of our meeting, but I really want to just highlight the fact that it isn't the conflict that is the problem. The nature of your subcommittee, it is inherent that there will be conflict. I want to encourage all of us to maintain what I call productive conflict, where we can really be in conflict together. And I'm just speaking generally. This isn't about any comment that was said tonight. This is about process, observation, that really we want to maintain that productive space of conflict as we move through this work. So there will be conflict. And I do believe I've seen really incredible teams develop that are highly conflictual, that have been able to do tremendous, extraordinary work together. So I want to offer that to you tonight and ask if there are any last comments for items the next meeting, and then I will move into process observation. I believe Bruce, or do I have my notes right? You are a process observer, so I'm gonna have you getting ready, and while I take Daria's last comment before we move into process observation.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I don't think any of us are here to languish. I feel like we're all here because we want to take action and make changes. And that is, I'd like to be, that to be accepted as a bottom line, fundamental, I want you to know that about me. So, Patrice, I hope you'll accept that as, and allow this committee to develop and grow. And, you know, I don't think there's anybody here who isn't eager to make things different ASAP, but we have to do it from an informed, thoughtful place. And I think supporting each other is the best way to do that, rather than criticizing each other or suggesting that we're lagging. I too am frustrated with the process, but it is the process and it is working. We have a tremendous opportunity here and it's unfolding before us. And let's be present and positive in order to allow that to develop so we really can make effective, long-lasting change.
Patrice?
I just want to say that we are doing a really shitty job of stepping into each other's shoes. So Daria, what you see as discomfort, you've never stepped into my shoes. You've never tried to step into my shoes. And so I am getting frustrated that we're not moving to action. I'm not saying moving to action without strategy. I'm a strategist by profession. That's what I do. That's what I've been doing for almost 30 years. So please stop pretending like I just want to move to the next step without thinking about it. I just want to start identifying the next step. So at least we can move and we can have all these parallel paths. But right now we are literally just sitting here in a bubble talking to ourselves, and it's not fun.
So we're at a critical moment right now in our agenda, and we have some choices. Bruce, I did see your hand. We have some choices to make in how we proceed. So I'm definitely going to state the obvious here. There's some disagreement about, action versus thinking and feelings that happen because of the comments. We can make a decision as a team to continue dialogue and extend the meeting time, or I would like to take Bruce's comment simply because he hasn't weighed in much tonight. So to offer him a chance to share his thoughts is not about Bruce, it's just about making sure that everybody has had a chance to speak. But we'll need to make a decision if you'd like to go ahead and close our meeting, or you would like to continue the meeting, given that people are continuing to comment. So quick thoughts on that before I move to Bruce. Veronica?
I vote for option 1, knowing that we mentioned both Daria and I needing to have a hard stop and move into process observation right now.
Okay, any thoughts? See thumbs up to that. And Patrice is off screen. Are you here with us, Patrice? Okay, she's taking a break. Bruce, I didn't see your,
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and close our meeting. I would like to recognize just the challenging content that was shared and that emotions can get high. Bruce, I'll go ahead and take your comment and then we'll move into process observation.
Well, I missed a lot of that conversation because my internet once again screwed up, and I'm not on the farm. I'm right here in Fairfax, right down the street from you, but it's pretty shitty here, so I don't know. Anyway, as far as just whether we're getting anything done, whether there's any motion or whether we're running in circles or doing nothing, if that was what I kind of caught as being from the tail end of that conversation. I definitely think we are moving. I think tonight was a good night. It was exactly what we decided we wanted for tonight, was to have our first meeting with Rico, to be able to get to know him. And I thought it was, I thought that was accomplished to the extent it could be in half an hour. And I think as we go forward, we're going to get into some meatier issues soon enough. So I really urge people to be patient. In my time in public service, things move slowly. And the reason they do is because we move the entire public along with us. And so that is slower than if you're just two people in a room working it out. Anyway, if you want me to just go on with process observation. Yeah. So I was process observer for the last meeting, and and I don't think I did that good a job on it. So I'll just say that at the end of the meeting, I couldn't think of anything to say. And then after the meeting, I thought, wow, yeah, actually. But and having missed probably the most tense part of this meeting, some disagreement that happened because my internet dropped out. I'm sorry, I can't really, I didn't, I wasn't in a good position to be process observer. But what I heard, it was, I heard people saying what they felt anyway and being brave. So hopefully being sensitive, and hopefully we remember to ask and not assume. That's a really important one, because it's the reason for that norm is because that's what we do as humans. We always have our idea about what's out there and what's in somebody else's head. And so it's so important for all of us to just remember that, ask and don't assume, especially when you're trying to think of what's in somebody else's head and why they're saying what they're doing, what they're really feeling, what they're really thinking, what their intentions really are. We usually don't know. That's it for me.
Okay, thank you, Bruce.
And thank you all for being here. I'll just say that personally.
All right, I'll bring us to our appreciations now. If there's anybody who'd like to give a shout out of appreciation, the floor is open. Veronica.
I want to say thank you to Anne for continuing to show up and provide the support. And I know it's been a learning curve for you too around technology with it, and just really appreciate your consistent, presence to be doing exactly that. Thanks, Anne.
Bruce.
Well, I really want to appreciate Rico because it was a big thing for him to come with a list of questions and be on the spot. And I think he came across, his true self came across, and that's what I wanted to hear. So thank you, Rico. And also thanks to the whole committee for making the decision to invite Rico for a first informal, let's get to know each other a bit. I think that was an excellent decision. So thank you all for that.
Alexandra.
I'm gonna appreciate Patrice for speaking her
Right.
truth.
Alexandra.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to echo Bruce's appreciation for interim chief Tauranza. That was honestly, like it felt very positive, and it felt like there's tons of room for us to grow and to learn from each other and to help each other. So I'm actually really excited.
All right. I'm going to give an appreciation tonight. I try to refrain due to timing, but I think it's really important. I just appreciate all of you so much. You said some words about being a model for the county of Marin, and I've certainly been following what's happening around our county. Most of my work life has been in the East Bay, and although I live here, it's a very different context. And Fairfax has dedicated an extraordinary amount of time and effort and money to this cause. And I say cause in the full sense of the cause. And I want to thank all of you for taking on this very challenging, emotional task and doing it with such grace and openness tonight. And I also really want to thank our community members who are here supporting and listening. And a special thanks also to the interim chief. What has been an incredibly difficult year for communities and a difficult year for our police force, for the way that you are working through this together as a community and your commitment to that important vision of Fairfax. I do believe you'll be a model, and as always, it's a privilege to be here with you. And with that, I will officially close our meeting for the evening. Thank you so much.